Oh, we are
So
live. Lovely.
I just got a missed call from. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. If I can focus. No, it's not focusing. Come on.
Canon prop star.
Canadian prop star.
Oh, interesting.
I'm assuming they're calling to let me know I've won millions of dollars, and I should.
Oh,
I should have
how
answered.
about that?
Yeah. So speaking of that, your first bullet point here, Andrew, was profiting off the
Yeah.
pandemic. Is this?
Yeah. Well, it's a popular thing now to be profiting off the pandemic in some way. I saw some tweets that I guess Kim Kardashian is doing like native ads on Instagram for some kind of pandemic kit that
Nice.
includes like masks and a first aid kit and one of those single use like phone chargers, like the little battery that you plug in but you can't recharge it, which is the dumbest thing ever. It makes me so mad. So I just thought, how can we profit off of the pandemic? What sort of panic can we exploit?
Right.
Or, I mean, like it's too late to have hoarded toilet paper or hand sanitizer and resell it at exorbitant prices. But what can
Although,
we do?
like wave two or wave three, depending on where you are in the world, we're in all like just before anybody flames us. This is all very much tongue in cheek. We are maybe this is the Canadian apologetic moment, but we are
Right.
very much tongue in cheek. We are very much taking it very seriously as far as staying home. I've been in a 14-day isolation chamber almost here with my family, and
Mhm.
we're all working from home, etc. But we are all do need to make a living and get rich quick here.
Right. Yes.
So,
I
anyways, I
mean,
was gonna say wave two, wave three could be coming. Like the sort of first wave toilet paper is done. Now they're restocking, catching up. People are calming down. I think you could send out a tweet theoretically, saying like, "I've stocked up" or "I'm about to stock up," and start the whole thing over again.
right. Yeah. Well,
Well,
because
well,
yeah,
I'm thinking the it's bread futures, right? Like
Mm.
flour is out of stock everywhere. Everyone's baking artisanal bread.
oh yes, that's true. Yeah, everyone is baking bread. So much so that I was considering baking bread, and I was like, well, I don't want to be derivative of everyone else.
I baked bread yesterday.
My wife actually baked some buns yesterday. It wasn't even part of the pandemic fear. We just did it for fun. We should have just been doing it out of fear, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get your motivations right.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that a lot of people came down on just I will bake bread today. I guess it's because if you're doing it properly, it's somewhat of a time-consuming process that would otherwise require like a weekend to do. So
Especially sourdough. Did you see a lot of? I saw a lot of sourdough starter kits that people were growing and feeding over the last few
yeah.
days.
Oh,
Just
everybody loved the sourdough.
yeah.
I've not attempted one of those yet,
No, I haven't either. I don't know. I
but
wonder if I have enough flour to bake bread. Probably. I don't.
I think I've got 2 more batches left before we're out of flour.
Now, Chris, you were saying, you've been in 14-day isolation. I have left the house, but only to like go on walks, with the exception of, I think, Wednesday, I went and got groceries, but that's the last time that I've like left the house for an extended period of time. I'm curious, I guess, Nick, how long you've been inside, how long we've all just been cooped up.
Yeah, so obviously, running outside for quick things like taking out the garbage, as fun as that is. I've done a few walks around the neighborhood, and then the last time that we really left the house was last Friday. So 8 days ago, we grabbed takeout from a local vegan eatery that is desperate for customers in this time of social
Yeah.
distancing. Which was quite good, but that was the last time we went anywhere. We did do an additional grocery order yesterday, not strictly necessary, but there was a slot open, and we were like, let's grab a few more things so we don't run out.
Is grocery order in where you are? Is that like pickup, or do you go into the store and pick up stuff? I know we had a bit of a chat in the Discord, the Good Stuff Discord, about this whole series, and hopefully we can get an update from Jay because he went out shopping and ended up seeing an ambulance and a fire truck at the grocery store.
Oh,
Hopefully
geez.
everybody's okay, but that probably isn't the greatest sign as you're walking into your grocery store to pick up groceries for the first time during pandemic times. But what
Yeah.
was did you go pick up or deliver, or what did you do?
We did the delivery, so Amazon Fresh with an Amazon Flex driver. That's usually the easiest availability around here. I think our local Safeway does the pickup option, but we've never tried that, and they have fewer of the items we're interested in, generally speaking.
And what's Amazon Flex? Is that like he works for Uber as well, or it's?
Well, it's the same sort of thing. It's like gig economy delivery drive folks.
Gotcha.
They can either do like Amazon Flex or Amazon Fresh, or they can deliver Amazon packages, which is what we get most of around here. Someone in a van.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's different than the like official vehicles that are doing delivery, is my understanding.
Gotcha.
But
okay. Yeah.
So I had to go to the grocery store because both of the grocery stores nearest to me had no slots available for pickup or delivery, and I think they just aren't doing it anymore for the time being. I mean, they only have like a 2-day future window where you can try to schedule. So I tried one day and then I tried the next day, and there still weren't any, and I haven't looked again. So maybe they're all booked up, but it seems, given that a new day is revealed on the schedule, every day, and those are already taken, I kind of can't imagine that people are actually stealing those so much as it's just that they aren't doing it anymore.
And just for reference in the world, where are you in the world geographically, as specific as you want to be, obviously?
I am in Southeast Michigan,
right,
which is Detroit area. So, yeah. I didn't check. Possibly, maybe would have been able to get a Whole Foods delivery, but it's kind of far from me, so I didn't look into that too much. But
is like you sort of alluded to, like not being out of the house, like where I am up in Canada here in Saskatchewan, you're frowned upon to be gathered downtown, like shopping. Let's say I've seen some shaming tweets for people who are like, a group of people just wandering downtown and shopping and paying no mind to walking right next to people. You're supposed to be doing the 6 feet or whatever of distance between each other, not gathering in groups of 10 or more. But you're allowed to go grocery shopping. Like Costco here, for example, has like a wait line, I guess, where you wait in line and then they allow 10 or so people in at a time or something like that, and then wipe the carts down before they go back out and stuff like that. So you are allowed to go shopping. Like, we're not in complete lockdown, but it is kind of this, like, even going for walks, you're kind of like, feel like everybody's looking at you thinking you shouldn't be going for walks, but actually we're allowed to go outside still. And like I think I said last time, it's, if we go for a walk for 20 minutes, we might see one person on our route around the neighborhood here. So it's not like we're in a high congestion area downtown Vancouver or Toronto or something like that, where obviously it's a little different there, I'm sure. But what's your, like, do you feel like the eyeballs out the window if you go for a walk out around the neighborhood?
No, not really. We're under shelter in place, so you're not allowed to drive anywhere unless you're like an essential worker or you're getting groceries or, some other small list of conditions that would let you drive places. But allowed to walk outside, supposed to do the 6-foot thing. The sidewalks around my apartment are narrow, which means that if I see someone coming the other way, I have just been crossing the street to the other sidewalk, which is a little weird, but there's not really a better way to go about it. But no, I've seen a fair few people walking either their dogs or like walking with their kids or whatever the past week. So I've been trying to go out at lunchtime and walk just so I get some physical activity. But the problem is it's been cold here, so it's not all that pleasant to walk outside for very long, which is frustrating.
Yeah, we're in a rainy week right now, so not doing our longer walks, but it'll be nice next week, and then we'll probably get out more again. In our neighborhood, with so few cars on the road, it's mostly a residential area. So people have generally been, if you're coming up on each other on the sidewalk, you actually step out into the street, since the street is basically empty most of the time. That's been sort of how people are doing the 6-foot wall. Lots of dog walking around here seems to be a big majority.
Well, and of course,
a frustration I have is that I have a neighbor that has a very loud car, and you always know when they're leaving in the morning because their car is very loud when it starts up. And that person seems to be unaffected by the shelter-in-place rules, because I keep getting woken up at like 6:30 in the morning by their car going. very frustrating.
You just kind of have
Yes,
to assume they're like a doctor. Maybe they're not.
Yeah,
just assume
yeah.
they're a doctor saving lives, and that's like how you can frame that so that it's like you're not quite as annoyed.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 25-cent viewers or listeners will know that Nick, you have on the stream you can see you've got the exercise bike beside you that many people I think have probably in their Zoom calls that gets used. I'm sure much more now that you're at home all the time, right?
Yeah. So normally this space is our guest room, and then the exercise bike has been in here, and my wife's desk, which is mostly our sort of crafting, letter writing supplies, that sort of thing. Normally has what the primary use of this room, but I've taken it over. I have not used the exercise bike. I have not tried to loop my coworkers into a spin class meeting.
Come on, isn't that like the whole?
Though it'd be tempting. I could probably park it right here, kind of set the wireless keyboard up on the handlebars.
Yeah.
Have your camera just bobbing up and down and banging around. That would,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But in fact, I have not used said exercise bike in some time. I probably should use it more. But I think with all the pandemic thoughts in the air, we have been more prone to at the end of the day just kind of tuning out and going to Netflix or other streaming platforms at the moment.
Yeah.
100%.
or games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you watching? There's like a TV
Picard
delay,
just wrapped.
Yeah.
So Star Trek Picard is my wife and I met because of Star Trek, so it's an important part of our lives together. So that's appointment viewing for us, and the finale for the first season just happened. That's been a lot of fun to watch every week, and listen to a lot of podcasts, analyzing every detail of the episodes. As I mentioned on 25 Cents the other day, we just finished Mythic Quest, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great Apple TV show.
Yeah. And then my wife is staying up to date on her Grey's Anatomy, which is one of her favorites for a long time. Although it's funny, this last episode, it's supposed to be present day, but all the doctors were at like a medical conference. It was very, very thematically inappropriate for real life. But of course, the episode was filmed months ago.
Yeah. And now all those actors have the coronavirus in real life or some. It's gonna all cross over.
Yeah, I don't think Grey's is actually filmed in Seattle. It is set here. I think they maybe use like stock footage of one house in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Scene setting. I've been watching Picard as well, and that's been fun. Although I've been watching it on a delay, but I'm caught up now. That's like the only TV show that I've been watching. Mostly I've been watching stuff on YouTube, which is where I mostly spend my time. And in fact, I found a channel just yesterday, which is just a guy who has the most pleasant voiceover narration voice ever. And it's just him doing railfan stuff, which is to say he just is like going places and filming trains going by and listening to the radio of the train and all that. And it's surprisingly engaging just because his voice is very soothing to listen to as he's like talking about what's happening and all that. And I don't know, it's scratching a weird itch for me, I guess. So
it's a bit like I know whenever we've gone on holidays in the past, especially before we had kids, I would all of a sudden like find myself watching like National Geographic channels or like nature channels when you're like in the evenings and kind of like your brain is in a different space, and so you need something besides the usual. I'm glad to hear it's not like that you're mainlining like coronavirus conspiracy theories on YouTube.
No, I'm really trying to avoid learning more about that than I think I need to in any case. So.
Yeah, we're just doing we're Survivor fans in our family, and so we're doing that, which is kind of it's a weird kind of thing to like. I saw someone tweet something to this effect as well, where watching TV, like you said with Grey's Anatomy, like it's a bit weird now to see all these people like living in close quarters, touching each other, sharing food. Obviously, Survivor's this whole different ball game for that kind of stuff, but like. And kind of jarring almost to see that happening and playing out in front of you on the screen, but that's been a nice kind of escape for our family anyways, and seeing this. It's a really good season if you're a Survivor fan this year or this season, but yeah. And other than that, our kids are watching some Netflix shows, and I forget what we've been catching up on. Well, I want to catch up on The Good Place. Actually, I haven't watched the last or the final season of that. But going back to Picard, I heard that I should check this out. I don't know if this happened in Canada. I assumed it was just the US, but CBS gave out a free month of whatever the streaming platform is that's on.
I think US and Canada.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I had signed up, when it started, so I guess that was foolish of me in hindsight. I could have just waited and then binged it all.
We've turned it off and on for every season, but
yeah,
of Star Trek Discovery.
Right. Yeah. And you had Andrew, you had some meat questions for us.
Oh yes. So I've been dabbling both before this whole virus thing and also during in trying the different vegan meats or like plant-based meats. I think this started actually last year when some burger places near me started to get like the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger, which I tried both of those, and they're both pretty good. And then most recently, the last time I went to Whole Foods, they were all cleaned out of all of the typical meats, but the vegan meat section was still well stocked. So I was looking through.
Yeah, I noticed that at our Whole Foods too. The freezer section of vegan meats was all a bounty for us.
Right. So I got some chorizo seitan, which was very good actually. I made like a little burrito bowl with it, and then also got some imitation chicken. I guess it's the brand is called No Evil Foods, and the food item is called Comrade Cluck.
I've seen that box, but I have not tried it.
Yeah, it's also like a seitan like wheat gluten product, and it's like shredded chicken strips like you would find in like a salad, and it just comes in like a vacuum packed bag which you open, and then you separate the strips, and then you just like fry it in some oil on a pan, and then you're good to go. So I just had that with like some sauce on the side and some vegetables, and it was pretty tasty actually. The texture is pretty close to chicken, and it has the same sort of blank slate flavor of chicken, which is to say that like you wouldn't eat just like plain chicken strips from the grill because that doesn't taste like anything. So it's a very good palate for you to add other flavors to with seasonings or sauces or what else. So I've been enjoying that. I've been waiting. So we have like very the burger substitutes that we have now, things like Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger, are pretty good. They're pretty close. And, they have like Beyond Sausage as well, which I have not tried, but I have some friends who've tried and say that they're pretty good. But I've been sort of waiting for like something to come out that would be a good chicken substitute, because that's mostly what I eat. So I'm watching those developments with great interest.
And so is this one that you just tried, the Not Evil one, how does it rank? Is it close?
It's pretty close, yeah. I would say it's like a 6 or 7, yeah.
Like it's still where you could, if I served it to you, didn't tell you, there'd be something that would twig in your mind?
I would be able to, I would be like, well, that's not chicken, because it doesn't crisp up the same as chicken, and the color and texture is a little bit different from chicken. But it's pretty good. I think, one of the things that I frequently make is like a Chipotle chicken. So I take chicken and I put it in marinade, and then I sous vide it. And I think that I could probably take this chicken and like chop it up the same and put it in marinade and sous vide it, and it would probably be just as good. It's slightly different perhaps, but just as good. But But yeah, I actually think, things like the Beyond Burger are, those are like 9 out of 10, but it's actually weird because they are so like a burger that when you do get that moment when it has like a taste that you realize isn't an actual burger, it is very kind of unsettling because it's like an uncanny valley for food where you're like, oh, this is a burger, and then you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't a burger taste. What am I eating?
Yeah, it's interesting coming at it from the other direction of because I've been vegan for about 4 years, and of course we tried a bunch of the different vegan meats, and some of them are not good. Like they're just not good. Some of the brands, they're trying different things, but with Beyond Burger, and actually I would say even more so with the Impossible Burger, it's close enough that I actually have to double take. Like if I'm at a restaurant and I get one of those, I'm like, wait, did you actually?
Yeah, did you punk me here?
did you flip the patty on the wrong grill or something like that? Right.
Right.
There's a Seattle local brand called Field Roast that makes all Vital Wheat gluten based sausages and patties, and those are really, really good. I have not seen them in broad distribution, but if you ever find those, I would definitely recommend those.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Yeah. The Beyond Burger is a lot of these that's like our quick meal. So we'll have like the Beyond Burgers in the freezer, or the Gardein like breaded not chicken nuggets in the freezer, and that's like a
chicken where it's CHIK''N.
Exactly. Yes, chicken
nuggets.
Chicken. Yeah.
I've actually been getting Instagram ads this week for some kind of plant-based chicken nugget substitute. I forget the brand name, but I looked at it and I was like, huh. Might have to look into that some more.
Yeah, I finally followed enough like local vegan and vegetarian eateries that Instagram has figured out to show me all of the new, it's a growth industry, right? Speaking of profiting, there's all the big food producers are pivoting, either acquiring or creating their own plant-based meat brands.
I've seen some the brands have proliferated rapidly, and I forget which brand it was, but it was like a plant-based meat, but it was like plant-based meat from, some other traditional meat brand like Tyson.
Yeah, like,
or something. And I was like,
Tyson has one now, I know.
Yeah.
It's interesting in the more very strict vegan communities who they're like, well, you can't support these plant-based brands because you're actually still supporting animal agriculture. Right. Like they're very, 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 very strict about who owns what. We have not bothered to draw that line because they're very tasty. We did make our own seitan at home, which you can make it in sous vide as well. We usually steam it, but you mix it up and then you kind of get, like you said, it's this sort of tasteless substrate, and then you put whatever you want on it.
Yeah,
it's like working with tofu. Or like you said, chicken.
Yeah. I'm just glad because I had some friends in like high school who were vegetarian or vegan. And I know that their choices for like a veggie burger back then were like really terrible, both in sort of taste, texture, and also how they cooked. Trying to cook a Boca burger on like an actual barbecue grill, it just sort of disintegrates and becomes a mess. And so the fact that we have something that's actually better for that like closely matches what you might expect, the performance characteristics or whatever of a burger.
Yeah, they cook about the same amount of time. They don't fall apart. They're not just compressed veggie patties. It's
right.
It's very different from what it was even, I would say, when we switched, not quite, 4+ years ago. It's already changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Are you, when you, let's say you're out with friends or family or whatever, and someone brings out a veggie option, I guess in Nick's case, this has been this way for a while, but like, is the sort of your community or your friendship group or whatever, is it greeted with like, oh, who's Mr. Fancy with the vegan option, or is it kind of just accepted as normal and fine these days?
My dad will make comments, but is otherwise, I think it's more, he's very set in his ways about food. He likes about 4 things. That's unfair. He likes consistency. And so sometimes when we're all together as a family and we opt for like preparing an all vegan meal, he kind of wonders if he could bring his own option.
Just to
But he
bring
likes
your
the
chicken nuggets.
exactly, yeah. He likes Beyond Burgers when we've cooked those up, when we've grilled those up. And my family's local. My sister's here, my wife's sister's here, my parents are here. So it's mostly that's the group who's getting together. With coworkers, there's definitely a like, hey Nick, you want to go grab something? Oh no, wait, you can't come to this food truck or this restaurant that
really?
we want to
Like
all
even
go
Seattle
to.
area, that's still like a. I mean, obviously, I'm aware that some restaurants don't have options, but like, I kind of would have assumed stereotypes and all that.
Yeah,
Seattle being more.
yeah. So it's pretty good, generally speaking. But the a lot of the little food trucks near the office are they'll make like one or two very authentic things from a particular cuisine, and so they don't really have a substitute or other option. It'll be a particular pork preparation or something like that.
Right. How about you?
I have friends and coworkers who are vegan, so that's pretty normal, I would say. And most of the places that we bother to go usually check ahead of time that they have vegan options, but it's usually pretty much guaranteed that they will have some sort of meatless food item on their menu, especially in some of the towns around here where that's more commonplace than others, I guess. But yeah, it's not too unusual, I would say, in my personal circles.
Yeah, it's always interesting just because I know in my world, anyways, it's a lot of people who haven't tried it and they're opposed to it just on the principle, and then aren't actually interested in whether or not it tastes good. Like to me, the metric of food is like whatever it is. Does it taste good to my palate? Is it enjoyable to eat? I'm a bit of a texture nerd or not nerd, but texture. Whatever, I get it. I don't like certain cooked carrots, for example. I don't like because they're like squishy in my mouth. And as a kid, it was just like that was my vegetable. I hated or whatever. But yeah, often I feel like to me it's just like, well, just if it tastes good, who cares whether it's came from a cow? I mean, you can have reasons why you might not want to eat something that came from a cow, let's say, but like, if it doesn't come from a cow, why does that automatically disqualify it from being a tasty food item or whatever? And so, but I know old habits die hard in terms of needing a good steak, I guess, or whatever the cliche is for eating meat, non-vegan.
Yeah, I think at least here in Seattle, the hardest part is the fancy restaurant options, because I think if you are a chef who's running a fancy restaurant, you're much more likely to be in that attitude of like, well, I would never work with these substandard materials like plant-based proteins. So if my wife and I are looking for like a date night, there's basically one place we can go that's like a fancy sit-down restaurant that's got some variety,
Like
maybe
A&W.
two. Yeah, yeah.
They're the ones
Well,
with Beyond
around here
Burger.
it would be Dick's Burgers would be the chain that everyone favors.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, all in all, there's a lot of good options.
right. So apart from we talked about what we're watching. What other things are you all doing to stay entertained amidst the inability to go out and do things?
It is funny this time, like especially if this has happened. Obviously, it's never a good time for a pandemic. Just clarify that. It's never a good season for but like, in the middle of winter for us here, at least up in Canada, it wouldn't have honestly changed a lot. People still go out, obviously, and you go grocery shopping. It would affect you, but like we're not itching to get outside as much, like you alluded to, Andrew, with like we're going for a walk. But like when spring is kind of like coming and it's just above freezing and sun is shining and it's like now it's like everyone's ready to get outside and get out of the house finally, and now we're in this semi-lockdown kind of state, and which for very good reason. But so yeah, it's been kind of a weird one where normally we'd be like getting the bikes out and getting the yard ready, and like we can still do some of that, but it definitely changes the overall tone and feel of what we do every day. And so for us, it's been I know my family right now is actually doing one of those like escape room game things with the phone and an app and real world kind of like sheets of paper and stuff to puzzles that you print off and sort of go with the app. And that's one thing we're doing, playing some games. We're Netflixing. And the kids are doing the Minecraft thing, which helps keep them entertained while my wife and I are working. And then setting a goal of like going for a walk every day, after supper, before supper, or whatever, and kind of getting out of the house as weather permits. And in terms of our environment here, even like we had to set up my wife's office sort of in our laundry room, basically downstairs. And that could just kind of like changes the dynamic of what you use the house for and how things sort of function. And so then the kids or the TV area kind of becomes the kids' domain to like it alternates as the net right now. It's set up for mini stick hockey games because that's just what you do in Canada, and then but then it kind of transforms back into a semi-relaxing TV watching couch state later on in the evening as the kids go to bed or whatever. But that's and then trying to take advantage of the time to read. Like there's ample time, downtime. There's no rushing off to events and stuff. And so definitely reading, and I'm just missing a good book. I've just started reading Chris Hadfield? That sounds wrong for some reason. The Canadian astronaut. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. His autobiography. I'm just starting to read. It's kind of like, I have Atomic Habits is like the really popular how to get things done and organize yourself book. So I have that on my book stand or books, whatever. And, I really don't want that right now. I don't want to figure out how to be more organized.
There are certain books that sort of lose, in this context, it's like, I don't really care about that right now.
No. I'm worrying about washing my hands for 20 seconds and making sure my kids wash their hands, and we're getting a little sun and oxygen, and that's probably about good right now.
Yeah.
So how about you?
I have been, playing video games a lot. Let's see. I've been doing like voice chats with some folks on Discord from time to time, which is nice to get some like socialization. I probably should be reading books because I have a big backlog, but I just can't be bothered. Reading has always felt a little bit like a chore for me. So given the option, I'd rather play a game or watch something where I don't have to engage my brain quite as much. Those are the things that I've been doing to keep myself from dying of boredom.
Yeah. I love reading. I've always loved reading. I have a massive backlog the last few years, and that's primarily because my sort of reading capacity is primarily taken up by reading to a small person, as opposed to having as much time to read books of my own selection. Although I have started introducing him to various favorites of mine. The Dinotopia series is a hit here. If you remember that sort of 90s picture books about a world where humans and dinosaurs live together. That's a go-to favorite. We just finished rereading one of those. I did read an actual grown-up book, actually tying into our previous topic, called We Are the Weather, which is kind of about the link between climate change and animal agriculture, or one of the links. So that was interesting. Not exactly an upper to read during a pandemic. I think in my queue, I've got a couple of some sci-fi that's been on my shelf forever that I need to maybe catch up on.
Yeah, that's where yesterday, actually, that was just yesterday. It was like last week I was going to say, but actually it was just yesterday when I was experimenting with that Netflix Party Chrome extension where you can watch Netflix with friends. And maybe we've never had a reason to want to do that because generally our friends are nearby. And so we would just get together with them if we wanted to watch a movie, or if the kids were going to watch a movie with their friends or whatever. Now we're kind of like checking that out. And yesterday I was just trying that experiment with some of the folks in the Good Stuff Discord, and it kind of worked. I don't know if it was just a weird glitch or whatever. It didn't seem to work great, but I've heard other folks say it works really well sometimes. But I picked Shaun of the Dead, which is a great movie, zombie movie, and but so I was just watching the first 10 minutes as I was trying this out, and it's just like eerie to watch that now in light of what we're all going through, because it's just basically the news reports you hear, like people are advised to stay inside, people are avoid interactions with other people. Don't, yeah, et cetera. Lock your doors. It's a little more hardcore than hopefully we ever have to get to. But you see him; he's coming home on the bus from work, and people are coughing around him without, covering. One person covers their mouth, and the other person doesn't at all. And it's kind of just like this, like the early days of what we've been going through here. And it almost felt like a little bit too much like a documentary of what we're going through in a release or escape. But so my wife and I were talking about, like, last night we were saying, like, do we just dive in and like watch, I know on Netflix, if you go on like Contagion and other shows like that are like really high on the popularity list, at least here in Canada. So some folks are obviously choosing to just go all in and just like, let's immerse ourselves in this weird world we're in. And whereas I'm kind of like more, might need the escape. I don't know. We're one foot in one door and one foot in the other door right now and deciding which way to go on the pandemic fan fiction.
Yeah, it was many years ago on vacation, but I was reading The Hot Zone, which is a nonfiction, I think, book about the one like very minor Ebola outbreak that happened in a U.S. monkey house in the 90s. And like I remember reading it and like starting to convince myself I was feeling ill. Like obviously was not getting Ebola from a book about Ebola, but I distinctly remember, it being too disturbing. And so other than maybe playing the board game Pandemic, I don't think I'm going to get too much into that area of fiction right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of regretting that we didn't buy that one before this all happened, because now I'm nervous to buy it because it might actually come with the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been, one of the games that I've been playing, I think I mentioned last week, is Horizon Zero Dawn, and the plot of that is sort of that the population of Earth is wiped out by an existential threat, which in this case is like, a bunch of like killer robots that have gone rogue, but then they're, it's like hundreds of years later that you're playing it, but it's just the themes and the sort of, as you're sort of reconstructing what happened to the planet and you're getting these glimpses of, like recorded bits from the past are all very, they resonate to me in a way that's like, this is a little weird at this point. When I originally played it, it wasn't that weird, but now it's like, oh, this is a little strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are our podcast episodes are audio recordings for some player to find as quest items in the future?
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, look for the thing under the rock in your backyard. That'll be the clue right now, if you've listened this far. Yeah.
The other area of entertainment has been trying to find sort of educational resources to keep the child occupied, a lot of which is being provided by his teacher, which is very helpful. And I think the big hit in the house is Mo Willems, the author illustrator, is doing a lunch doodles live stream on YouTube every day. So that's been a big hit.
Is it like a draw along with the kind of instructional thing, or just what kind of watching him?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. He talks about drawing. There's like usually one or two drawing exercises, and then he goes into his little personal archives and talks about like, oh, here's where I got the idea for this character, and here's my early sketches, that kind of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, that's where we've just succumbed to the Minecraft.
Yeah.
They have math books and things they got from school that they like, because we were gone for 2 weeks beforehand, and like they pulled them out of school and then came home and basically couldn't go back to school, and have now, so we've actually been out of school longer, but left not planning to be gone, end of school basically. It's this weird kind of place we're in, and our school system's kind of trying to catch up / maybe just relax and say, that's it, we're just done, because what's the point? But yeah, so we're working through math books and journaling and, just kind of observing the world around us as it comes up, and watching. There's like a Cincinnati Zoo live stream that they do every day that kind of catch that a couple times. But it is like that tension that you'll hear a lot of parents talking about of like, screen time is great, and it's obviously different to like be playing a video game on your phone versus watching some sort of educational thing, but you still are kind of passively staring at a screen, and we're kind of trying to, that's the tough balance, especially when you're trying to like also work during the day and keep your kids out of your work as much as possible, and keep trying to balance that. So that's where I'm sure it's like for you, Andrew, we're kind of like, man, it would be nice to have a quiet house, but then I know like days of a quiet house kind of like get into your brain a little bit, and having a kid screaming at you from
For
behind
sure, yeah.
the chair might be nice every so often.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been compensating for that. One of the things that I figured out I needed to do was like just have some noise. So I hadn't been listening to podcasts because normally the reason I do that at work is to sort of screen out other people's noise. No, I didn't do that here, but then it's just too quiet, and I need to feel like that there's, people here at least, or, that something's going on. So I actually ordered a little Bluetooth speaker that I have at my desk now so I can just play podcasts because, I don't need to listen on headphones because I'm not disrupting anybody, which means, given the choice between playing something out loud or wearing headphones, I will play it out loud just to give my ears a break.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I see you've got, since we're doing the live stream, the video version, and folks can watch that. I see you've got some Lego on the table behind you. Is that like a pandemic Lego kit? Or?
No, that's been there for quite some time, actually.
That's part of the cleaning up stuff that you have done.
Right. No, that's a decoration. That's the Lego Saturn V. That's like a centerpiece in my living room here, which is also my dining room and my workroom. That is the one thing about living in an apartment, is that I don't have a lot of places to go. It's very small in here. So like,
yeah.
It's actually some kind of unfortunate because the desk I'm sitting at right now recording this podcast is the desk that I also have my work computer at and do work at. And it's also the desk where my gaming computer is. So I haven't been doing that much gaming on the gaming computer because it's just obnoxious to continue sitting here after having sat here all day.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny how small your house gets, or your apartment, or whatever it is, like that. Because, we have a bigger house here, but there's 5 people living in it. And so you're still kind of like, proportionally, you have the similar amount of space anyways, obviously different spaces to go to, but it's like, and as Nick can attest to, I'm sure, like we'll sit down on the couch, some coffee this morning, looking through Twitter or whatever, and then happen to accidentally click a video, and all of a sudden 3 little humans come running from wherever they were in the house because you've triggered their endorphin.
Yes, the auto scroll, autoplay videos on Instagram are usually a particular culprit for the beacon, the child summoning beacon. Although certainly there's plenty of screen time going on right now of various sorts, as we've talked about on our other show.
Yeah.
One thing I am grateful for is that the time that I do no longer spend commuting means that I have more time in the morning on like the weekdays to make a more complete breakfast or a more ambitious breakfast rather than just having like some toast real fast. So I've been able to mix it up a little bit there. But on the other hand, because I am making all of my meals pretty much, I've ordered delivery a couple times this week, but also the number of restaurants that are still open for delivery seems to be dwindling by the day, which is unfortunate because most of the ones that have closed are like the local restaurants, and the ones that remain open are the chain restaurants, which, I would rather the situation be reversed so that I felt like I was supporting the local businesses, but I think they just struggle to make it work. But I'm also just running out of things to make and like recipes that seem interesting, and I'm sort of getting bored. So I've been trying to look up new things that I can make with what I have on hand. The problem is there are lots of cuisine websites that have put up a lot of like recipe, like galleries or collections or whatever, and you go through them and then you find a recipe that you like, but it has an ingredient that you don't have, and it is not easy to simply go and get it at this point. So you have to start all over again.
Yeah, the thing I was really surprised by the last time I was in Whole Foods, which was like 2 weeks ago, was the spice section was like cleared out. Normally spice section is fully stocked. No one's going to be stocking up on coriander,
right.
But it was wiped out. I guess because everyone was figuring they'd be doing more home cooking.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is aspirational, and I think a lot of people are going to be throwing out spices in like 5 years' time that they never opened.
Yeah. Evo is watching on Periscope. He's set traps for those little humans, which is good advice. Maybe I'll set up a trap on my stairwell so that if they come running up the stairs, something will fly down, some pillows or whatever will fly down and whack them to give me a few more seconds to finish watching whatever inane video on YouTube or Instagram that I'm trying to finish. Yes. I know it's a good time to like try all that, like the food stuff. But yeah, you're always like, my wife and I actually just before at Christmas time, we started using Paprika on iOS and Mac. I think it's just a Mac iOS only app, but it's a great like sort of recipe scheduling planner, a bit of like pantry organizer kind of app. And you can have it like sort of automatically, you're going to make these recipes and then build a recipe or a grocery list for you out of that, and great that way. But yeah, now it's kind of like we're falling back to what we used to do, where it's just like, what's the point in doing that? Because we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants each week, and we might not even get groceries, so we have to like just go back to toast for supper.
What I've found is that the cognitive load of like the situation that we all find ourselves in is so high that it is really hard to summon up the motivation to do a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Whether it be meal planning or, exercising or whatever. It's just really, it's just like, I just don't have, I'm so worn out already. I don't have the energy to, for anything else at this point.
Yeah. Last week was a hell of a year, right?
Yeah.
That's what, like, I posted in the Discord talking about, like, when our friends brought us some food, and it was just kind of like, just that act of someone bringing stuff into our house, which normally was like, you're super grateful, you're glad they just happened to show up with some milk and eggs or whatever, that never really happened before, because we just didn't need them to show up with that, but
right.
But yeah, just that idea, and like just the like, oh yeah, I have to wash this, I have to make sure this doesn't have the virus on it in any way, and all that kind of stuff, and just like bringing food into the house is now this, like, besides the scheduling of it and figuring out if you can get it, and then you have to also get it into the house safely, and there's obviously good reasons and why the food itself is probably one of the safer things to get in. But then that's where my 10-year-old was like, asked me, like, did you have a bad experience with sickness as a kid, Dad? Because you're really stressed right now. Just like, yeah, seeing the tension and worry and anxiety. Like, I mean, I am like more on the worried side about our kids getting sick at various times, just because it's stressful. And as a business owner, it's frustrating if you get sick, because there's nobody else who's going to cover for me. Although if Evo's out there, maybe I can send some work his way. But and so this on top of that is just kind of like taking it all up to 11, and where it's just like, not only could you get sick, you can just actually get near death or worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little light thoughts.
That's correct. Well, we can say, we talked last episode about Dr. Don and his advice, and he was extensively quoted in Vox this week about, what precautions you should or should not be taking when you bring food into your house from the grocery or whatever. Because there's a lot of advice out there where people have been saying, like, oh, you need to wipe down the groceries. Or there was one that was like, you need to leave them out on your porch for 3 days for the virus to die, which is plainly ridiculous and also unsafe for the actual food. You'll develop, you'll get food poisoning from the food if you leave it out on your porch for 3 days, which is, not as bad as the coronavirus, but still bad. So he had a lot of good advice in that article. And the thing I think that he said is that, it's it's a lot less risky, and it's not, there's no evidence of transmission of the virus from food packaging or anything like that. And the likelihood too that someone, like with dry hands, transfers the virus onto the packaging, and then you transfer that virus from the packaging onto your hands, and then you get it onto you, is like all pretty low likelihood compared to, the other things. And basically his conclusions are, that the biggest risk you have in getting groceries is from the other people who might be carrying it. And also, as he likes to say, right, yeah, and also as he likes to say, the risks of not eating food outweigh the risks of eating food.
Yeah, that's actually a really calming joke. I know it's a joke sort of thing, but I know that's like helps me a lot, even just in the more anxious moments. And it's funny watching Don, like he was on, I interviewed him on Show Me Your Mic like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember when it was, because he has a podcast about food safety. And back then I was joking with him about, barbecuing a burger and feeling safe to eat it or whatever. But it's funny watching him like explode on Twitter with this. It's like this is his moment to shine, and he's not not that he's going back to what we first started talking about. Like, it's not like he's trying to profit off of this. He's genuinely helping people with information and countering false information, etc. But yeah, like his Twitter following now is up to like 7,300 people.
These people who say you should wash your food with soap, which to me, when I read that, I was like, what? No, that's going to make it taste terrible and probably be bad for you.
Yeah.
And
it was funny because that's my family message thread was like 2 minutes before they had all sent that MD doctor guy washing his food with soaps video that went around to like everybody on the internet. And then like, yeah, and then we were talking in Discord and saw the Vox sort of response to that. So paste that in and
right, yeah, here you go, don't panic. Yeah. Well, it was funny because he got a couple reply guys, who were like, well, but I wash my hands with soap and then I eat with my hands, so aren't I eating the soap? And it's like, well, no, you wash the soap off. That's how hand washing works.
Yeah, maybe go back and rewatch some of the hand washing videos first before
yeah, you don't put the soap on and then just like stop there.
Just licking your tasty soap.
Right. Yeah. And that's been good for me because I have had I have those pangs of like anxiety too, where I'm like, oh wait a minute, but I've just been being careful. When I come home, like I take a little pocket thing of hand sanitizer to the grocery and I sanitize before I get there, and then after I leave, when I get in the car, I sanitize my hands again, and then I get the groceries and put them all away and wash my hands yet again, and then just being careful to wash my hands before I prepare food and before I eat the food and all that, because that's really the key things, I guess. But even as Dr. Don has said, like if the virus somehow gets on the food and you eat it, it's not likely to do anything because it's a virus that's respiratory. And it's unlikely it mostly gets inactivated or destroyed in your stomach by the stomach acid. So, the real thing is to continue to wash your hands and avoid, touching your face, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing I've read a lot of too is your exposure needs to be relatively acute, right? Like if you get a small amount of viral particles, it sounds like probably you're not going to get a runaway infection. Your immune system is going to take care of that. It's when you've got someone in close proximity spraying you with virus-filled droplets. If you're working in an ER on the front lines, right? Or you're interacting with hundreds of people at some sort of service job or something. That's where the risk is really high.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it seems like I wonder if the folks who have more mild symptoms of it and then get tested positive, like, oh, I did have it, but luckily it was a mild version. It's almost like that kind of idea where like I was at the pub with a friend and someone walked by and sneezed. I didn't realize they did. And I turned my face, 2 minutes after they did, ingested some of the virus through my nose or whatever, and that kind of idea where it does happen and people have very mild sort of responses to it, but it still is registered in your body as like, you get the checkbox of you had COVID-19 or whatever, the sticker. But yeah, and versus, folks who are either immunocompromised in some way or have a pre-existing condition that even at a very minimal exposure would send them down a very dark path are getting it. But it's a weird one that's it's comforting on the one hand, but also like you then read every time I hear like a good comforting article or read something like that, then there's inevitably like the next tweet is like, I just had coronavirus and this is my experience. And like I was coughing up blood in my lungs and every orifice was whatever. And like you're just like, oh, okay, that's also an experience, I guess. That someone.
Yeah, I have a college friend who is pretty sure she's had it. She's kind of on the mend now, and it's been the bedridden but not needing hospitalization level of just feeling terrible, coughing all the time, fighting off fever, right? So she's pretty sure she got it from work, but she's going to get through it. And it's been terrible. Yeah. That's really the only person I know of who I've heard a personal experience. But I know like here in my county where it's been the reason why we have some of the higher death numbers for the U.S. is because it hit a couple of nursing homes, and once it's there, it's basically everyone gets it, and there's almost no recovery at that age, and with all the other medical conditions you might have, and that's where it gets really, really sad. Yeah, I feel it's like yeah.
See, there we go.
That's why we got to do all the social distancing.
We had a positive, and then
we took bringing it down. Bringing it down.
Well, it's
usually
It's this is a crisis without really an end in sight at the moment. I mean, we don't really know if the
Easter.
social distancing
Easter.
measure.
It's the end.
Well, oh yeah, well
Sorry.
yeah, no, it'll be done by Easter. We've decided that. Yeah, we're just gonna but like we don't. It's still too early yet. In the U.S. anyway, we've only really started doing these like shelter-in-place measures in like the past week, so it's really too late to see if we are actually flattening the curve at all. So we have a long road yet to go, and optimism is in short supply, I would say.
Yeah.
And frequently, to me, people who are being optimistic about this, it reads as sort of lacking a basis in reality at this point. So I've had some folks who, have told me like, oh, this whole situation is only bad if you let it be bad. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure that it's bad regardless.
Yeah.
I can do about it.
We can qualify or quantify it as
So,
generally bad right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So,
I think for me, it's almost easier to not be anxious because there are so many unknowns. It's like, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I could worry about that I'm not doing or am doing wrong. So that almost helps in some ways. But it is frustrating to see the sort of official response be so badly bungled in various places.
Yeah, it's I'm I don't know. It's like I think these next several months probably are going to require an expenditure of like patience and energy from all of us that's beyond what we've had to spend in a very long time, probably. So we're all just going to be exhausted, but that's the way it is sometimes. Life throws everyone curveballs. Sometimes it throws everyone a curveball at the same time, which is deeply unfortunate.
Yeah. And I mean, we all have it relatively easy having like homes and jobs we can continue doing to pay for groceries and all that. I mean, there's a lot of people who, you look at the unemployment numbers from the U.S. Are in bad some support.
Yeah, that's right. It's been that's again kind of jarring. I think the contrast of not that Canada's done it perfectly, and each of our provinces have done it to varying degrees of. I'm sure you're not getting much news about how Saskatchewan is handling the coronavirus. We get lots of.
I have not seen that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, how the U.S. is handling it and all that kind of stuff, and so, but it's just kind of jarring to like we're neighbors, we're geographically neighbors, we're very much a very similar society. And yet to be doing it so vastly differently in terms of even there's small business resource funds that are going out. There's, EI and unemployment insurance kind of related stuff that's going out from the government right away. And not that solves all the wounds, and then on top of that, to just have the like mind shift of like, oh, if you don't have a job and you don't have insurance, then you probably can't get health care. And that whole angle that you guys have to deal with down there is just like, yeah. So it's
the ticking time bomb that I'm waiting for, which will go off this week, is that rent is due for a lot of people on April 1st.
Yeah.
And it's due for a lot of people who do not have jobs or income anymore. And it seems pretty much universally that landlords have decided to continue to insist that rent be paid on time, despite the reality that that's just not going to be possible for a lot of people. So I am curious to watch how that plays out. And I think we are potentially in for some very frustrating like news stories and, reports on Twitter of how people are being mistreated, frankly, by, the people who control their housing in the next couple of days. So that's the thing I worry about the most. As a landlord, you essentially depend upon your tenants having an income. And if your tenants do not have an income anymore, I do not know how you can reasonably expect them to continue to pay their rent. But also at this point, I don't know how you can expect to evict them and feel that you're not doing something deeply morally wrong at this time, and also how you expect to find a new tenant to take over that apartment when people literally are not allowed to go outside. Like, no one is apartment shopping right now. So I don't know. I've seen a lot of organizations have acted with a lot of, grace, and there's been a lot. We've all gotten a lot of emails from companies telling us about the measures that they're taking. A lot of like credit card companies are allowing deferral of payments. Student loan companies are doing that as well. But then there are also people that aren't doing that, and I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. It'll be interesting when this is all over to sort of do a calculus of who treated people well during the epidemic and who did not, and what consequences they should face, whether it just be like social or whatever for that.
Yeah, and whether they were doing some of the good in self-interest, or like some of the bank loans deferred, I know are actually being deferred, but at a higher interest rate than normal. And so it's kind of like this, they get the PR of hey, you can defer your mortgage for 2 months or whatever, but in actuality, we're still going to get you for that interest, and probably a little more too, just because we're doing it out of the goodness of our heart or whatever. But really, we want to get a little extra profit in the end, because this is all going to end soon, we hope, and everyone goes back to normal and we make more money. This is such a deeply abnormal time that the thing that frustrates me most is to see people or organizations or corporations loudly insisting that things have to continue as normal, and it's like, well, that's just not possible right now, and your refusal to acknowledge that is deeply irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting, as things continue to develop. So I hope that I would say, once it is found out that a landlord is like trying to evict people who couldn't pay their rent, that's not going to end well for the landlord. So hopefully even the idea of that happening will cause some of these landlords to, change their stance on these sorts of things. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I know here at least there's a block on all evictions except for, a very narrow case of like property damage or something like that, right? Like all the usual reasons to evict are off the table, at least in our local area.
Yeah.
So on that happy note, we're gonna we should maybe wrap up. We've been going for about an hour, but do you guys have a second to try the Jackbox game here, just see if it works along? I just want to sort of experiment to see if it actually works as a thing that we can do. So let me just fire that up for anyone who's watching later. If you happen to be watching later or watching right now, this Crosstalk episode is an audio podcast that we're doing right now for the patrons of Good Stuff. Patreon.com/goodstuffFM is where you can sign up and join. And then we'll probably be releasing it as some sort of audio show as well at some point in the near future. Once we get our email out to all our listeners to make sure they're aware that we're properly sanitizing our podcasts. Before it goes out.
Well, I sprayed my mic down with Lysol before we started.
I was watching you when you were talking about, I just did it now, but like you were talking about how bring home food, make sure you wash your hands and whatever. And as you did that, you were like scratching your eye. And I was wishing I had the Twitch streamer guy, instant replay Zoom thing. Let's go back to Andrew, as he said.
Yeah. Yes, okay, so I was thinking about that as I was actively doing it. So that's great.
All signs point to, like, I've read, I've seen people who are like doing the test on themselves of how much they actually do. And they're like, I'm thinking about it. And then I go back and look, and actively, I was trying not to, and I still did it so much. And I'm like, no, but I'm not actually doing it.
Right.
I'm actually not, but yeah. Mm-hmm. So Quiplash, there's a drawing one or a quick, it won't work that well with 3 people, but we'll still try it here just to see if technology behaves with it. That's kind of what I mainly want to try. We'll do Quiplash.
Curious.
So I'm going to share the video with you guys first, because there's like a little launch screen, and then we'll share it with the stream. So you can share my screen. Boop, Boop-a-doo. Share screen. Share application. Quiplash. Okay, so you guys are seeing it?
Yes.
And do you hear?
I do not hear it.
Nothing? Okay. Let me just loop back that in. I would have thought Skype would. I like seeing Nick bouncing every so.
It's they as a ball chairman.
Yeah.
You have to shift around a little bit.
A ball chairman.
Everyone at work is team standing desk. I like my weird ball chair.
I can't do a standing desk. I don't know. Maybe I could, but I don't know. I've tried them in the past, and it's hard.
I'm missing mine. It's at my office right now, and I can't go get it. Get a $2,000 fine if I went into my office to grab it.
Probably not worth it.
No. Okay, are you hearing that now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not.
Ah,
There we go.
Working as intended.
Okay, so that's working. Loop back down. I think it's still going to the stream. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to play a game. Actually, I'm going to turn off the music. Oh, is it not? It doesn't give me controls over music. Okay. All right, I guess we're going to leave the music on. So we'll share it with the stream here shortly if you're watching out there. And while we're doing this, it doesn't show me that there's anybody watching right now, but you can actually participate as an audience member as well. And maybe actually I'll send a screenshot to my kids that will join in. So you go to jackbox.tv on your... There you go. Andrew already figured it out. Just follow the instructions.
Oh, I was assuming it was a URL to append, but now I understand.
So Andrew, actually, because you've done this before?
oh, yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you get to press. Everybody's in. So now I'm going to share this with the stream.
This is Quiplash. I'm Schmitty, and you're an acceptable group of players. I see the Pope didn't show up again. Now let's do this anyway.
Never mind the humor.
This is round one. You'll get 2 prompts on your device. Just answer them however you want. Your responses, or quips, will be pitted against someone else's, and everyone will vote on their favorite. You get points based on the percentage of people who like your answer, and a bonus if you get more votes than your opponent.
So folks who are watching, if you're watching, you can join the audience, jackbox.tv, and then punch in that code. You'll be part of the audience. I think there's 2 prompts this time, right?
Yep.
I'm not thinking very fast on my feet.
This is one of those sort of type without thinking sort of scenarios, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yes. Just yes and it very quickly.
Oops. Playing it with kids, inevitably one of them accidentally closes the browser, and then they're crying because it doesn't work.
Let's take a look. Starting things off, the one thing you wish a politician would just say already. Okay, voting time. Pick your favorite.
So normally there'd be more options here, obviously. But there's just one person voting for the other 2. Doesn't work quite as well.
Oh, because there's only 3 of us.
Yeah,
Right.
you could play with 8 people.
Next
I think.
up,
I put that in there for
the
some
good,
Andrew
the bad,
cat.
and the ugly was the good, the bad, and the blank. Time to vote.
Yes. Thank you.
And next, a sign you probably shouldn't put up in your yard. It's voting time.
Similar themes.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Nick.
Well, now we've all won one, right?
Round 1 is in the books. Let's see the scores.
Ties broken by tiebreakers of America.
It's now time for round 2. Everything is worth double, twice as much.
Oh, we have an audience member.
Okay, here we go. The first prompt is something people used to do for fun before electricity. Okay, everyone, vote for your favorite.
As you can tell, it would be a lot more fun with more folks, obviously.
Right.
Not quite as...
Is this something that like streamers will play big
Yeah.
games of this quickly with their audiences
yeah.
like a warm up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you get like 100 people in the audience, and because then the audience has some points allocated to its own
Yeah.
choices of answers as well,
Gotcha.
so they can actually tip the balance.
Oh, the one audience member voted for your...
Next in line, another use for gravy.
I wonder what's on her mind.
Yeah, synergy. As I touch my nose.
Yeah.
Who's voting? Is that somebody?
It's the audience.
Oh. Well, maybe I was waiting for the audience to vote. I don't know.
It was, yeah.
And next is what Bigfoot complains about to his therapist the most. It's voting time.
Yeah, and even within our family with 5 people playing, it's substantially better. Like, it's fun enough anyways to... Except that
I need to grab this and run some games for my coworkers.
Yeah. There's multiple packs of it, so you get... Depends on which game. I think I have pack 2 or something, but there's 6 different packs of games and varying degrees of fun. Oh man, Andrew's kicking butt this time. I think there's 3 rounds total.
Round 2 is no more. Let's see the damage.
Oh man. Sad Chris.
That 2200 makes a difference.
This is round 3, the last lash. One final chance to catch up. Point values are tripled, and everyone gets the same prompt this time. Your prompt is the worst breakfast, pancakes shaped like blank.
Nah, that's not gonna win. No.
Okay, soak it in. Okay, in this round, you have 3 votes to give to players. You can give them all to one player or spread them out.
if the audience is out there and wants to vote, or if it's just they left their browser open and now we have to wait for them.
Yeah.
You also get 3 votes this time in case you're... Hooray.
Andrew cleaning up.
Yeah.
That's the end. Let's see the final scoreboard.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you.
Oops.
Oh,
That's
the
wrong.
top answers are all skewed because there's just one.
Yeah. I wonder if that comment at the beginning where it was like, oh, I see hardly anyone showed up. If that's probably tied to the number of players, dynamically changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, good. Glad to see it worked, and also there's the other game that I have is called Drawful, and so that's where you're actually drawing on your phone in very crude, obviously 2 colors, and you can't erase. It gives you a prompt. You have to draw it, and people vote for the top or whatever, the one that makes them laugh or whatever the thing is, and so that's also a fun one to play. So, anyways, thanks guys.
Cool. Yep.
Go have some
That
lunch.
was
Go
fun.
fold some laundry. Thanks for watching. If you're out there, we're doing this once a week-ish at Good Stuff during this
It
extended
depends
break.
on when we all have, or when enough people have availability, which
Yeah.
is kind of all over the place at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe be back. If whatever platform you're on right now, if you followed us there, we'll try and live stream in the future and maybe do a game again or whatever sometime and have these chats. And then, of course, follow all the podcasts at goodstuff.fm. So turn off live stream because my kids are coming into the room. Bye.